So the Packers are able to hold on to the victory, beating the Bengals 27-18. And looking at this game, this was a game the Packers 100% should have won. This is a Bengals defense that is one of the worst in the NFL. It's a Bengals offense that, since Joe Burrow has gone down, has struggled in a big way, which is why they traded for Joe Flacco. And honestly, early on in this game, I was pretty concerned with how this Packers offense was looking. They have that first drive. Jordan Love makes a questionable decision. The ball gets tipped, gets intercepted. And it felt like this offense just really had a tough time going out there and getting started, getting things going. Thankfully, things picked up later. You have that touchdown drive a little bit later in the first half, and then the Packers finish off the day with 27 points. They run the ball very effectively. Josh Jacobs has a monster day, running the ball almost 100 yards, receiving as well. And so thankfully, the Packers were able to hold on to this one. And you look defensively, to start off this day, the Bengals looked so bad. It was almost shocking how bad the Bengals offense looked. And I think for me, I knew how good this Packers defense was. And when you look at the Bengals without Burrow, you have Flacco there who just got brought in. But the Bengals with Jamar Chase and with T. Higgins have one of the best wide receiver duos in the NFL. So I was curious to see how Joe Flacco would play with both of those guys, and they did get things going a little bit more in the second half, which is why this was actually a game in the end. And in the end there, as you're sitting there watching this game and the Bengals, score 2 touchdowns there near the end, and they actually make this one close, it's like, okay, the Packers offense needs to convert here, because if they don't convert on one of these drives, then that's a one-score game, and the way this Bengals offense is moving the ball, this could be a game that, gets way too close near the end. Thankfully, the Packers offense was able to close things off there with Jordan Love making a great throw. I think it was 3rd and 9. And then the Packers, kicking a field goal to make it a 2-score game. The Bengals aren't able to, do anything there after missing that field goal. So the Packers come away with the win that they 100% needed to get. And I think looking at this Packers team, a few takeaways from this game. I feel like there are moments where it feels like, especially early on in this game, that the Packers were playing down to their competition. This is a Bengals defense that has been one of the worst in the NFL, and to see the way the Packers started, it wasn't a great look. Thankfully, they were able to get things ironed out later on. But when you look at this Packers team, when they played the Browns, it felt like they sort of played down to that competition. The Browns have an incredible defense, but they have a very bad offense, as we witnessed with Flacco over there. Flacco definitely has a few more weapons here with the Cincinnati Bengals, but there are moments where it feels like this Packers team plays down to the level of competition they're facing, and then against some of the better teams, they seem to really come alive. And I almost expected more of a game where you put up, mid-30s points. They were sort of close to that near the end. I just think that there are some moments where they need to get off to faster starts. Thankfully, they were able to get everything ironed out. I think one of the reasons is Trey Hendrickson, who is one of the better pass rushers in the NFL, a guy who lots of, as Packers fans, before the move for Micah Parsons was made, wanted to see come into Green Bay. And he was causing problems in the first half. And then he gets injured, goes out, misses a lot of the second half, and that really changed things for that Bengals defense because he's their best player. And even with him so far this season, they have been one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And so I do think things may have been a little bit different if Hendrickson would have been out there, because he was getting pressure on Jordan Love in that first half, and that was one of the issues and one of the reasons that the Packers did start off slowly, was because they were allowing a lot of pressure. And this was one of the first games where you have, Zach Tom back, you have Aaron Banks back, you have Rasheed Walker, who was healthy as well. And so that was a good sign that this offensive line seems to be getting healthy. But to start off the game, they were getting beat pretty consistently, and you're thinking to yourself, like, is this really the starting offensive line right here? It looks like we're still playing backups. But as the game went on, things were a lot cleaner. Hendrickson going down definitely helped this Packers offense out a lot. But I still think I have some questions about this Packers offense because they seem to be inconsistent at times. When you look at them playing the Browns, they really struggled against that defense. And so the past 2 performances against the Cowboys, one of the worst defenses in the NFL. They just allowed, 200-plus yards to Rico Dowdle, who's a very good player. But the Cowboys defense, bad. Bengals defense, bad. And the Packers had some issues starting off. They got things going later, so you do have to give them lots of credit. And so I think every week when I look at this team, it's like you're trying to really gauge how good is this team really, based on the competition they're facing. And when you look at, playoffs and Super Bowl, because that's, I think, what this Packers team is aiming to achieve, and they have the talent necessary. Is this a team that can go on a deep playoff run and win a Super Bowl? And I think that when they're playing their best football, when they're airing it out, and Jordan Love is, playing as good as he does, which he's played very good football most of the season, outside a couple, bad decisions so far this year. When the Packers offense is at their best, they can compete with some of the best in the NFL. And I think that my one concern is, against some of these better defenses, how is this Packers offense going to look? Because the past 2 weeks, they've played pretty good overall. 40 points against the Cowboys, 27 against the Bengals, ended up going well for them. But how can they play against some of these better defenses who have a lot more talent and a lot more physicality on their defensive lines? Because this Bengals D-line, besides Hendrickson, they have not been very good. And so to see them struggle early on was slightly concerning. But there's always, little things that you can look at and say, they should play better here, play better there. But all in all, to be sitting at 3-1-1, the Packers are in a good spot right now. And the other thing, the defense, the first half, complete dominance. As I said earlier, you're watching that Bengals offense, and they could do absolutely nothing. It was punt after punt after punt. And then the second half, Flacco just basically starts throwing it up to Jamar Chase, who makes incredible catches, especially that one touchdown catch on Keyshawn Nixon. It looked like it should have been a defensive pass interference on Keyshawn Nixon. And Nixon is holding Jamar Chase at like one of his arms or his shoulder, and he's still able to come away with that touchdown catch. And so Joe Flacco, he can still throw the ball well. He's not as good as he once used to be. He still at times can make some questionable decisions, but when you have Jamar Chase out there, who is one of the best, if not the best receiver in the NFL, it felt like he just started, throwing it up to him, and things started working there for the Bengals offense. And so this Packers defense, they have their moments where they are playing very, very good football. And I would say overall it was a good day by the Packers defense, especially in the first half. But the Bengals were able to put up 18 in the second half, and that's why the Bengals were able to stay in this game come the second half. And this is after a performance against the Cowboys where the Packers defense really struggled against Dak Prescott. They put up 40 points. And so the Packers all day long today, they were getting a ton of pressure. Now, there weren't a lot of sacks. I'm pretty sure there's only one overall sack. Let me check the overall stats right here just to make sure. Yeah, one sack by Lucas Van Ness, who went down with an injury. It was a great sack by Van Ness. But even though they only had one sack, they were getting a ton of pressure. The strategy was clearly by the Bengals. The Bengals knew how good this Packers pass rush is and how good Micah Parsons is, Rashawn Gary, all these guys. And they were just consistently getting the ball out as quickly as possible. A ton of checkdowns. Flacco in the second half just finding, Jamar Chase or T. Higgins as fast as he could, checking it down to running backs. And so that's why, these sack numbers weren't there. And I think that's what we're going to see from a lot of these offenses for the rest of the season, because if your offensive line is not really, really good, like a top-tier unit, you're going to have problems if you're sitting back there and allowing plays to develop and trying to get that, deep passing game going. And so I expect, that we'll see a lot more teams getting the ball out quickly, just like this Bengals team did. First half didn't really work for them. Second half, they're able to get a lot of things going. And so this Packers defense, I think that they're a very, very good unit. I'd still say they're a top 10 unit. And when they're playing their best football, there's honestly, no defense, or there's no defense better. But this Bengals offense, with Joe Flacco, I'd still put them as like, a average to below average offensive unit. Their offensive line is not very good overall. And so the Packers defense is going to have a lot more competition coming up. And, I wonder how they're going to play against, other offenses that can, put up points. The Cowboys are a very, very good offense. One of the better ones in the NFL, and they're having to put up a ton of points because of how bad their defense is playing. But to finish the day, end of the day, all you want to do is win games. The Packers are able to win this, even though it felt a little too close at the end there, where if the Packers have, one play go the wrong way, that could have gotten way too interesting in the end. Thankfully, Jordan Love, in the clutch moment, a moment where it really matters, 3rd and 9, there is, a couple minutes left in the game. If the Packers don't convert that, I think that was the play after the sack. If they don't convert that 3rd down, the Bengals would have been down, 6 at that time. So if they move the ball down the field and get a touchdown, the Bengals could have potentially won that game. So you have to give a ton of credit to Jordan Love in a moment where the Packers needed it. He's rolling to the left, makes a beautiful pass to Matthew Golden. And so Jordan Love against the Cowboys made some really crucial plays to, tie that game. And then today in that big moment makes a really good play. And, I had wondered at times, from some moments in the past, like that interception against the Browns, the way he's played in some playoff games, he's struggled in some high pressure moments at times, but the past 2 games, Jordan Love has played incredible in some of these high pressure moments, which I feel like is a lot of, just sort of him moving forward and growing as a quarterback, which is really, really great to see. And then Matthew Golden, this is probably his most effective game so far this season. He had a really, really good day. He even had 2 carries for 16 yards, but he finished the day the most receiving yards by the Packers. Matthew Golden, 3 receptions for 86 yards, a long of 35. I think that was that one beautiful pass by Jordan Love in the first half. And to see him be the guy that Jordan Love targets on that crucial third down, it feels like Matthew Golden is starting to develop and starting to grow. And now that we're, 5 games into the Packers season, I think that as the season progresses, Matthew Golden is going to get more and more looks. I think sometimes when you have rookies, it can take some time for them to, get that chemistry with the quarterback and develop and grow. And so great to see him play well. And then Josh Jacobs had a very, very good day. 18 carries, 93 yards, 5.2 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns rushing, and then he also had 5 receptions for 57 yards. So that may be exactly 150 total scrimmage yards. And so that's great to see because early on in the season, the Packers were struggling running the ball. And today it started off a little rough, but they finished the day running very effectively. 153 yards rushing, 4.6 yards a carry. Very solid day there, which is promising because that was the Packers' strength last season. Early on, wasn't going very well. I think part of it had to do with, Zach Tom being down, injuries on the offensive line. But now today, they ran the ball very effectively. And then Jordan Love on the ground, 7 carries, 26 yards, a lot of big pickups by him as well. And I think now with Jordan Love not dealing with those lower body injuries that he was struggling with last season, he's definitely much more mobile, which is an aspect of his game that he can definitely utilize in big moments. And then Romeo Doubs, a lot of key catches, 5 receptions, 55 yards. Kraft, 2 receptions, 43 yards, including that touchdown. So all in all, a solid day by the Packers offense, even though it started off slow. And just final thing defensively, the Bengals could not run the ball, 3.4 yards a carry. They played a pretty good day overall and a few issues in the second half. But all in all, the Packers did enough to win this game, now sitting at 3-1-1. If you want more Packers content, Packers videos throughout the week, news, updates, all that stuff, feel free to subscribe down below. But I appreciate you guys watching as always, and I'll see you guys next time.